VIPKid. You've heard about it, you're interested in it, but you know it can't be all positives. What is? In this video, I'll give you an honest look at 5 key areas of working for VIPKid and discuss the pros and cons of each. So stick around. Hello YouTube, it's me, Teacher Joel. Before we get started, do me a favor and click that subscribe button and hit that notification bell so that you'll know whenever I release new content to this channel. My goal is to help you out, whether you've just heard about VIPKid or you're just getting started or you've been teaching for a while. I want to release content that will help you wherever you are. And the best way for you to know when it's being released is to be notified. Now for today's video, I want to address some pros and cons of working with VIPKid. Now there are several videos out there that address this particular topic, but the way I want to structure this is looking at 5 key areas and kind of discussing the pros and the cons of each of those areas, instead of just doing a generic pros and cons list. Now before we go any further, I do want to go ahead and tell you what those 5 areas are, so that maybe if you're not interested in all of them, you can skip ahead to the parts that you're actually interested in. So number 1, we're going to address payment. Number 2, we're going to address scheduling. Number 3, we're going to address bookings. Number 4, we're going to address lessons. And number 5, we're going to address overall security. Now the way I want to do this is kind of the compliment sandwich model. So I'm going to give you my pros, and then I'm going to give you my cons, and then I'll give you a summary of each category. So let's jump right in. Number 1, payment. For payment, my first pro would be a high hourly pay. This particular job is going to pay you more than if you were to go out and get a part-time job working at a restaurant or in retail. This is good pay, especially considering that you get to do this from the comfort of your home. Just as a for instance, I don't mind telling you that currently I'm making $21 an hour. That's $10.50 per class. Now we're going to talk about the breakdown of that amount here in just a second, but that's the general idea. Now when I say $21 an hour, that's not actually what I could top out at. If I were willing to work what's called short notice, which is something we're going to discuss a little bit later, I could potentially make up to $25 an hour. 25. That's good money. I don't care who you are. The next positive is that you get to pick your payment schedule. You can tell VIPKid how often you would like to be paid by selecting from one of their payment schedule options. I'm a budget person, and for me, it's simpler to get paid monthly. So that's what I choose to do. But there are other options depending on how you like to run your personal finances. And then of course the last thing is they will pay you. They're going to pay you. Some people immediately, when they hear that I'm teaching English to Chinese students online, immediately want to know if this is legitimate. It is. I've always been paid. And I've always been paid on time in the amount that I expected to be paid. Now cons. I told you that I make $21 an hour and that I could potentially make $25 an hour if I were willing to go to a strictly short notice type of schedule. But I didn't break that down for you, so let me help you understand this a little bit more. In order to achieve those numbers, you are reliant on more than just your base pay per class. So for instance, for me, my base pay per class is $8.50. So for a 25-minute class, I'm getting paid a base rate of $8.50. Then I'm dependent on other incentives to get that number up. For instance, there's an incentive for finishing the class as scheduled. You start on time, you end on time, you get an extra $1. Good news. There's also an incentive for teaching upwards of 45 classes a month. That's not extremely difficult to do if you're really making an effort to incorporate this into your daily life. 30 days in a month, 45 classes, that's about a class and a half a day. Not that you can teach half a class. So $45 a month is another extra $1 per class. And just like that, I've gotten each class up to $10.50, and now I'm up to $21 an hour. If I want to hit that $25 an hour mark, I need to open my classes as short notice classes. That means the student will book the class within 24 hours of the start time, and then I'll get an extra $2 for that class, an extra $4 an hour, for a total of $25 an hour. Now the pro here, good money. The con, it's a little bit complicated, and you need to hit those incentives in order to get the money. Another con is that VIPKid has a pretty strict cancellation policy, and it can affect your pay. If you open classes, they expect you to teach them, and really that's a given. They're pretty strict about it. You can't just wake up with a runny nose and say, I'm not feeling it today. It's going to affect your pay. They will actually take money away from you. Another con is that you are going to be responsible for your own taxes. You are an independent contractor with VIPKid, not an employee. They will not do any tax withholding for you. You will need to keep up with that, and you will need to report it. Honestly, this is not that big of a deal. I've been doing that for a while with some other side hustles that I do, but if you're not familiar with it, you just need to know that you don't want to spend every dollar you make. You need to figure out what percentage of each check you're going to need to set aside for when taxes roll around. Another con, it's also kind of difficult to get a raise with VIPKid. My best advice is make sure that when you go through the hiring process, you are prepared and that you do the best job that you can. And honestly, the best way to ensure that that happens is to make sure that you have a referring teacher. At the end of this video, I'm going to talk about how I would love to be your referring teacher, but even if you don't choose me, choose someone. Your pay is affected by how well you do as you're getting hired, and once that's locked in, it's likely to stay there for a while. And the last con I want to address is just the obvious. This is hourly pay, so you will need to keep yourself busy if you want to make a significant amount of money. So to sum it up, this is not a salary job. This is something you get paid hourly for, but the pay is great, with the possibility of achieving $25 or even $26 an hour with short notice classes. So if you're willing to put in the hours, you can make a pretty good amount of money per month. If you don't want to work that hard, don't want to work those many hours, you can treat this as a great second source of income. That's how I use this job, and I love it. I get up before I go to my brick and mortar teaching job every day. I do this for 2 hours, and that extra income goes a long way every single month. All right, moving on. Topic number 2, scheduling. So what are the pros of working for VIPKid as far as scheduling goes? Number 1, you get to build your own schedule. No one is going to tell you when you have to work or how much you have to work. Another pro, after you've been doing this for a while, you will start to get students who are what we call regulars. Students who follow you, who are interested in you, who claim you as their teacher. And they will be looking for you to open slots, and they will take those slots. So within a certain amount of time, depending on the strength of your profile, you really can start to have confidence that your schedule will fill up. Now the cons. The first con is probably pretty obvious, but you may not have thought about it if you haven't started teaching yet, and that is that there is a time difference, and it is significant. So for instance, I'm a brick and mortar teacher. I go to a school building every day here in America and teach instrumental music. As a high school teacher, where I live, we start school before 8 o'clock, and I am required to be at school at 7:30 a.m. Did you know it's still dark at 7:30 a.m. for most of the school year? Now that means if I want to get 2 hours worth of teaching in before I go to school, I have to get up pretty early. And I like to have a morning routine that involves more than just rolling out of bed and running to the webcam. So I typically get up at, get ready for this, 4:15 in the morning. Now if you're not willing to do that, you don't have to. Remember, one of the pros, you get to decide. But if you are maintaining a job outside of the home while teaching with VIPKid, you will have to get ready for some early mornings or some late nights. Another downside to scheduling is when those peak time slots occur. That's the time slots that the most kids are looking for. I live in the eastern United States, so those slots actually occur when I have already had to leave my house to go to work. So I regularly miss those and the incentives that are usually attached to opening them. And the last thing I'll say about scheduling is that there will be some inconsistency when you start out. This is not guaranteed work, and we'll talk about that more with booking, but you just need to know that when you're starting out and you don't have those regulars, your schedule will be hit and miss. So in summary, as far as scheduling is concerned, you have a lot of flexibility, but you don't necessarily have a lot of security, at least not at first. So what's my recommendation? Don't quit your day job, or at least not yet. All right, item number 3, and we've already touched on this a little bit in scheduling, bookings. Bookings just refers to the classes that you open and the students who select you as their teacher. So what are the pros? Well, you will get regulars, interested students who follow your schedule and look for you to open classes. I just got done teaching one of my regulars, and it is so wonderful to have these students. You can rely on them to book you, so you know you're gonna have that income. They'll typically pick around the same time every day or every week. And another pro that's related to that, you will build a relationship with them. This girl that I just taught, when she first started taking from me, was so shy and had so little confidence, and she has just blossomed into this very confident, risk-taking English speaker. And it's been wonderful to see that growth and development. And if that's not a pro, I don't know what is. But maybe that's just the teacher in me coming out. So you get your regulars and you build those relationships, and that leads to confidence in your bookings. You know that those slots will get filled, and so you have confidence that you will get that income. It's also pretty simple now with their new streamlined process to get extra certifications. So when you get hired, you'll get hired with, I believe, 2 certifications, and you can select between 2 different options there. But once you get hired, getting more certifications is not difficult, and it does not take too long. And of course, I can't drive this home enough. If you open short notice slots, you will get extra money. I'm gonna really hammer that home. Cons of the VIPKid booking system. Let's take a look. As I mentioned in scheduling, it is going to be hit and miss, especially when you're first getting started and when you're coming back from a break. So for instance, when I started out, I did pretty well with bookings right off the bat, and that was about a year ago. And as I mentioned in another video, I contribute that partially just to my intro video that I had in my profile. Now my wife and I had our first child towards the end of last year. And when that happened, I took an extended break from teaching in the mornings to help her as we adjusted to our new schedule. I recently got back into teaching at the beginning of this year and quickly found that a lot of my regulars had moved on to find other teachers, and understandably so. That meant that I was going to have to start basically from scratch. Luckily, things picked up pretty quickly for me, but still, if you're heavily dependent on this income, you need to understand that anytime that you take an extended period of time off, You should be prepared for some hit and miss bookings when you come back and when you're first getting started. Speaking of profiles, you will create a teacher profile, and that teacher profile will directly and heavily affect your booking. You will need to write a bio that's geared towards the parents, telling them why you would be great for their child. You will also need to develop a video, and this video needs to be something that looks professional to the parents and engaging to the student. This is a place where some video editing skills would really come in handy. Another con is that you're going to need more certifications than you start with if you really want to build out your schedule and fill in your bookings. Now, I mentioned earlier that it's pretty simple and easy to get these certifications, but you just need to know that you are going to have to be willing to work with a variety of students at a variety of places in their English speaking development. And then, of course, as I've mentioned before, there's just no guarantee. There's no guarantee that just because you open up a time slot, someone's going to take it. VIPKid does not assign these students to you. They have to find you. This is your business. You must take control if you want to fill out these bookings. So in summary, like I just said, you are an independent contractor. This is your business. If you want a lot of bookings, you have to market yourself to the parents and to the students through your profile in a way that grabs their attention and gets them to book you. You have to take that responsibility. But as you build out your business and you get those regulars, you can really start to depend on those bookings getting filled. And as those bookings get filled and as you teach those classes, you are going to develop awesome relationships with these students on the other side of the world in ways that you didn't know was possible. And like I said, it's just great. Now let's talk a little bit about the fourth topic, lessons. So the pros. Number one, pre-made. You do not have to develop the lessons. You never have to wonder what you're going to teach, when you need to teach it, how you're going to teach it. These lessons are already made for you. That's a pro. Another pro that goes right along with that, there is a set time limit. The parents know this time limit and they expect this time limit. They don't want you to go short, but they also do not really want you to go over. So you're going to teach for 25 minutes for a typical class, and that's it. You will be done. You've got a pre-made lesson and a set amount of time to teach it, and that's it. Talk about a pro. And having that pre-made lesson and that set amount of time means that for the most part, the pacing is simple. In a standard lesson, you will have roughly 25 slides for around 25 minutes. Spend a minute on a slide, you're good to go. Another pro of the lesson is that you can pretty much figure out what kind of props you're going to need for every class, and you can have those props at hand ready to go without doing a whole lot of digging. For instance, I know that in every class I'm going to ask the kids how they're feeling today. Are you feeling happy? This guy, he's in just about every class. Another prop that you're going to need for just about every class, the whiteboard. Very versatile, easy to use. You need to have one. And then of course, you've got the props that live in your background. I've got a map, I've got a clock. It works. Another great thing about VIPKid lessons, the kids know how they work. They come to you with a little bit of knowledge and they already understand the basic structure, they understand what's expected of them, and they understand how to navigate the slide presentations pretty well. And the last thing I'll say, and I mean this from the bottom of my heart, the lessons are fun. They're just fun. I get to learn about these students. Just the other day, I got to have a discussion with a student about what her dream job would be and why that's her dream job. And it's just fun to have that kind of discussion with a student who's on the other side of the world and having that discussion in a second language. Mind-blowing. Now there are some cons associated with the lessons, so let's talk through that real quick. First of all, not all the lessons are 25 slides. There are what are called unit assessments within the main courses or the major courses, and these are typically longer. You might be asked to go through almost 50 slides in 25 minutes. And for the most part, it's not too bad because a lot of these are just click-through slides that don't necessarily have content in them. But at the same time, if the student isn't doing particularly well or can't understand exactly what's being asked of them on a particular slide and you get hung up, you can really fall behind, and you are expected to get through those slides because the feedback associated with a unit assessment actually requires you to rate their performance on each slide. So you do have to get through those slides somehow. And there have been times where I have just had to drag students through unit assessments. So that can be stressful, and it's definitely a con. I think it's a necessary con. I understand it, but it's a con nonetheless. Another con goes back to those extra certifications that I do think that you need to get bookings and to fill out your schedule, which affects your pay. That means extra prep time. Now, what do I mean by that? While most of the major courses or the main lessons are similar in structure regardless of level, when you get into these supplemental lessons, you're going to be looking at things that are entirely different from what you're accustomed to, and you're going to have to spend some time getting prepared to teach those classes. So the more certifications you have, the more knowledge you have to have up here, and the more front-end prep that's going to require from you, and you need those certifications. So that's a little bit of a con. And another con is that you are expected to use some kind of reward system in your classes. And VIPKid provides a reward system in their slides, but once you get past level 2, these are not going to be interactive. A lot of times it will just be adding a tick or drawing a line with your digital pen. They're not the best. So if you want to do something really interesting, you're going to need to either invest in some physical reward systems that you can have in the background here, or you're going to need to learn a little bit about Google Slides, which is my preference. And I will soon be releasing a video kind of diving into how that works. And I already have released a video about how to set that up through CamTwist if you have a Mac computer. But it is a little bit of a con because they expect a reward system from you, but the reward system that's provided, I have found, isn't always great. So in summary, when we're looking at the lessons in VIPKid, I do think they're great. They're prepackaged, the pacing is not that bad, and they're really fun and provide a lot of opportunities for you to get to know the student. You will need to be prepared with probably a secondary reward system, have some props, and some other ways to keep the student engaged. But overall, I think the lessons are great. All right, and topic number 5, we're going to take a look at overall security. What are the pros? What are the cons? And as you can imagine, this kind of pulls from the other 4 topics that we've discussed. My first pro when thinking about job security with VIPKid is the fact that I don't think they're going anywhere. If anything, I think that we can expect to see the company continue to grow and expand and pull in more students and more teachers. And speaking of expansion and growth, another pro, in my opinion, based on what I understand, is that there are plenty of students for the number of teachers. I believe the last time I looked on the VIPKid website, there were something like 700,000 students currently involved in VIPKid. So there's plenty of work to go around. So that's definitely a pro. Another pro that I've already mentioned is that payment is consistent and it's what you will expect it to be. You can rely on VIPKid to give you the money that you've earned. And going along with that, there are opportunities for bonuses and incentives to up your pay even more. extra security and extra income. And the last major pro, once you have your regulars in place, you can expect to fill those bookings, have a consistent schedule, and have a consistent income. You can rely on this platform to provide you with that extra income and security once you've built up your business. Now, a few cons as relates to security. You are an independent contractor, as I've mentioned before. So you are responsible for running this business on your own. You will need to understand the taxes to set aside. You will need to do your best to market yourself, to get bookings, and to fill your schedule. You are responsible for you. There are no guarantees. And that is definitely a con when we're talking about security. But at the same time, please understand that I do think that that is perfectly fair and a good way to operate this type of business. Going along with that thought, your pay will probably vary month to month. Even once you have that base of regulars, it's highly unlikely that every week of every month is going to look exactly the same. So you're not going to know for sure exactly what your income is going to be. So you need to plan ahead for some variable income. And lastly, and this is especially for my newbies out there, it is slow getting started. It will take time to build this business up and to feel like you have any sense of security. But just remember the old saying, if you build it, they will come. If you fill out that profile, if you make yourself look great to the students and the parents, they will book you, and eventually you will be able to rely on this for steady income. So to sum up my thoughts on security, I'll just be a little bit more personal with you. I don't think VIPKid is going anywhere. I think it's going to grow. I think it's going to continue to bring in more teachers and more students, and I think it's going to be great. At the same time, I'm a brick and mortar teacher, and I don't see myself leaving that position because I have benefits through that job, and I know that American public schools aren't going anywhere. But that's just a personal feeling. If you're able to handle a little bit more risk that's associated with a more variable source of income, and if you can't handle that risk, you want benefits, you want a guaranteed number every month coming in, keep your day job and do this in the mornings or do this in the evenings. It's a great opportunity for anyone. And those are my pros and cons as it deals with payment, bookings, scheduling, lessons, and security. If I didn't cover a topic that you'd like me to cover, just let me know in the comments below, and I'd be happy to make another video and go more into depth into that topic. Or if you want me to talk about something more specific with one of the topics I did cover, let me know that as well. And if you enjoyed the video, make sure you do hit that like button and let me know why. And if you didn't enjoy the video, if you feel like I missed some stuff and you'd like for me to go back and include it in another video, don't be afraid to hit that dislike button and let me know in the comments below. Now, after hearing my list of pros and cons, if you're ready to get started with VIPKid, I would love to help you. Like I said earlier, the amount of money that you make is directly associated with how you do during the hiring process, and the best way to ensure that you get the best pay you're eligible for is by having a referring teacher walk you through that process. If you would like that to be me, I would love to help. All you need to do is follow the link in the description below to my personal VIPKid landing page. There you can sign up with me as your referring teacher. And then I want you to shoot me an email at eslteacherjoel@gmail.com and let me know that you did. If you've already started the sign up process and you don't have a referring teacher, you can use my code found here and add it to your application. If you do that, send me an email, let me know that you did, and we can start communicating and get you through this process in the best, most efficient way possible. Also, make sure you check out my website at eslteacherjoel.com and look me up on Instagram at ESL Teacher Joel. I'd love to connect with you no matter where you are on your VIPKid journey. One more time before you go, make sure you click that subscribe button, hit that notification bell so that you know when I release new content. Thank you so much for watching. Goodbye.